Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. The migrant caravan, the one they told you didn't exist, is real. And tonight it's languishing in Tijuana. Amazingly, the local population, people who live in Tijuana, are not at all happy about that. It turns out that nobody except liberals likes illegal immigration. It's a disaster. Here's what Tijuana looks like tonight, for example. In just a minute, we'll talk to a member of Tijuana's local government who's very frustrated. He says it's past time for the caravan to go back to Honduras. Plus, Paris is burning. There are riots in the streets. You may have seen something about that on the news, but most news outlets are lying, and they won't tell you why, what this is. Well, it turns out it's a backlash against the climate change agenda, which crushes the middle class of every country, including France. But first tonight, the Mueller probe continues to hurt people who clearly have no connection at all to Russian spying or Vladimir Putin. Writer Jerome Corsi, for example, who will join us in just a minute, says that Mueller's prosecutors entrapped him in perjury and then threatened him with prison, all in an effort to make him compliant. Corsi says he has rejected a plea deal from Mueller and will be fighting back. Plenty of others, though, on television are confident that this, the Jerome Corsi connection, is finally the big breakthrough. Not at all like the 10 or 20 other breakthroughs that went nowhere.
The question now is, has he crossed the line legal? And it looks every day that this goes on, it looks like he has more and more.
The basic lay of the land is that you have a special counsel with an extremely strong hand, of which we're seeing a small piece.
A special counsel with an extremely strong hand, crushing Jerome Corsi. Jerome Corsi, though, has not backed down. Instead, today he filed a criminal complaint against Robert Mueller. He alleges gross misconduct by the special prosecutor's office. Jerome Corsi joins us tonight to explain. Mr. Corsi, thank you very much for coming on.
Well,
now,
pleasure,
when last
Tucker.
we spoke, my understanding was from a previous conversation that you had made a mistake. You say you forgot the date of an email that you forwarded, and that you went and told the special prosecutor's office that you made that mistake, and they allowed you to amend your testimony. They allowed it. But then at a later time, when you didn't say what they wanted you to say, they came back and threatened to prosecute you for lying in the first iteration of your testimony. Is that correct?
Yes, actually, I had not seen my 2016 emails. I hadn't reloaded them the first day of testimony. I'd forgotten about 2 emails. When I finally loaded the time machine, I realized these emails were there. The special prosecutor allowed me to amend the testimony about 10 days later, and then in the one count they wanted to plead guilty to, they wanted to charge me with knowingly and willfully giving false information on the original day's mistake, not taking into account that they had allowed me, the special prosecutor, to amend the testimony, which I thought was completely fraudulent.
Well, it's certainly odd, and most lawyers we've spoken to have never heard of something like that. What was the point? Why were they pressing you on that? Why do you think they're threatening you with perjury?
Well, from day one, I mean, they blew up. They said they're going to have enough to throw me in prison because I forgot these emails. And I'm convinced it was all a strategy. I mean, I went in to cooperate. I gave my computers, I gave my time machine, handed over voluntarily my emails, my Twitter account, etc., everything they wanted. And now the first day, it's a memory test, and I don't get the memory test right, and suddenly I'm going to be thrown in prison for the rest of my life. It's an intimidation tactic, and I'm quite convinced it's intentional.
Intimidating you to get you to do what? What did they want you to do that you refused to do?
The key thing was that they wanted me to be the key link between, it was going to be me, Roger Stone, to me, to Julian Assange. And then they'd have all their collusion together. It would be Roger Stone to Steve Bannon to Donald Trump and coordination with Assange. Except I figured out on my own, we'd had 25th wedding anniversary trip to Italy. On that flight, I calculated and figured out it was Assange had Podesta's emails. I'd never met Assange. I've never talked to Assange or emailed him. And I have no contact with anyone who is in touch with Assange. And the prosecutors refused to believe this. So it led to grilling after grilling after grilling, constantly. I have an 8-inch thick book with my name on it. And Mr. Zielinski, one of the prosecutors, won't tell me if that's all about me, won't tell me how many books like that he's got. And they're asking me questions and then pulling files out and say, but this email contradicts it. Well, I don't remember that email. I don't remember in detail any of my emails. I had 60,000
Right.
emails in my computer from 2016.
It's totally, and that's kind of the point, is that they had your email. So if you had contact with Julian Assange, they would already know it. So this is obviously a grotesque charade. So I don't know the standing of your criminal complaint, but in principle, obviously, I'm rooting for you. Jerome Corsi, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Alan Dershowitz is a retired Harvard Law School professor. He's the author of The Case Against Impeaching Trump, and he joins us tonight. Professor, thanks a lot for coming on. So,
Thank you.
Assess from a legal perspective, if you would, Jerome Corsi's claim that he was allowed to amend his testimony to correct a mistake that he said was a result of him just forgetting, being 72 and forgetting the details, and then being threatened with prosecution for lying using the first unamended transcript of the testimony. Does that pass the legal smell test?
I don't think so. There's no law prohibiting somebody from being indicted for lying on the basis of the first lie. But in 55 years of practicing criminal law, I have never heard or read of any case where a person was allowed to amend his testimony and then corrected it and was then threatened with indictment for the unamended original alleged lie. That just seems utterly unprecedented if those facts are correct.
So what would be the point of doing that? I mean, what's actually going on here, do you think?
Well, we know what's going on because Judge Ellis told us what's going on. That is, and he was the judge in the Manafort case. That is, the modus operandi of the special counsel is to get as many people as possible to commit perjury or to lie and then squeeze them and use pressure on them to have them testify against the major targets of the investigation. And what Judge Ellis said appropriately is the risk of that is not only will some people sing, but they will compose, they will elaborate, they will tell the story even better because they know that the better the story, the better the deal. But having said that, I don't think that we're going to hear a criminal complaint being taken seriously by the Justice Department against the special prosecutor. That's never happened in history as far as I know. But raising this as a defense, both as a legal defense and as a factual defense, I think has some real credibility. So if the facts are as they say, as he says they are, I think he would have a very defensible case and would have a pretty good chance of winning, and probably would be wise not necessarily to capitulate to the threats of prosecution. Now, there may be more there. I don't know, and I'm not giving him legal advice. But based on what you asked, that seems like a very weak case.
Right. And that is his account of it. But if that's true, and adding that to everything else we know, is it possible that the prosecution, the special prosecutor, has lost sight of the point of this entire exercise, which is to protect the country from a hostile foreign power?
Right, and I would put it a little differently. The special counsel was supposed to have found crimes that already occurred before he became special counsel. That was his mandate, to find crimes relating to Russia. As far as we know, he hasn't found very many of those. What he's done is to help create crimes. That is, he's given people an opportunity to lie. Now, it's their fault if they lie. But these are all crimes that have occurred after he became special prosecutor. That wasn't his mandate. And the other crimes, most of the ones that he found before, are financial crimes, like with Manafort, utterly unrelated to his mandate. The one exception to that may be Cohen testifying about the $100-and-something thousand payment to one of the women, but that's a very questionable case because you're allowed to make contributions to your own campaign, particularly if the purpose is to save you from embarrassment with family and friends and help your business brand. So that's going to be a very, very tough case to bring. We know that from the Edwards case.
How common is this among prosecutors? This kind of behavior, roping, trying to suborn someone into perjury?
It's common when you're dealing with the mafia. It's common when you're dealing with terrorists. But good prosecutors don't try to manufacture crime. And good prosecutors don't necessarily use the threat of prosecution to create evidence that is used to target somebody who may not have committed any crime at all. So, prosecutors do a lot of things, but good prosecutors, I think, don't do what allegedly is being done here. And I think that once the report comes out and once the president has an opportunity through his legal team to respond to the report, maybe we'll see both sides of the issue, which up to now we haven't really seen.
Mafia and terrorist. Jerome Corsi, not in either category, of course. Professor, thank you very much. Great to see you.
Thank you.